All right, I'm going to take the opportunity to now welcome Mr. Matt, the Chief Sales Officer at Talview. Mr. Matt, may I please invite you on stage to present the Talview keynote? And can we welcome him with a thunderous round of applause?
So before we get started, let's watch a quick video of some things that are kind of recapping some of the great things we talked about today. Then we'll kind of talk about how we can put some of these things into action. It's not enough just to talk about it, right? We actually have to do it. So we'll do some of that. But let's watch this video. A lot of information we covered today, right? And sometimes when you go to these events, you take in all this information, and by the end of the day, your head feels like it's going to explode because you learn so much. You're trying to figure out, how does it impact me? How does it impact my organization? How can I put some of what we've talked about today into practice? That's the most important thing. It's not enough just to come here and talk about and learn things. You know, we heard the phrase, let's not just talk the talk, but let's walk the walk. Let's actually do it. So let's talk a little bit about some of those real critical things, because I think one of the things that we learned from the last panel session too, and maybe the previous one also as well, was, you know, there's this organizational change management bottleneck. Sometimes we can't get people to change, and I think a lot of organizations suffer from the same disease. And the disease is called, we've always done it this way. And that's something that we need to get people to change, and we need people in HR and recruitment and talent acquisition to get the rest of the organization to understand how important it is what you all do, okay? The first thing, though, is, are you ready to hire in an instant? Reflect on your own organization, where you are as a company. And as you think about some of those things, the first thing you need to figure out is, where does your process stand today? Where are you today? Really reflect on some of the things that people talked about during the day, about some of the challenges you are facing. You heard about a lot of challenges up here from other people and some advice, and you could probably relate to at least 1, 2, 3, or maybe 5 of the different things that were talked about. But you need to make an honest assessment of where your process is today. Until you understand that, you don't know what to change, right? So you need to understand where you are today. And then, what can your recruiting team do to make the hiring process faster? I think the one overwhelming theme, obviously, in terms of insta-hiring today is things are moving at a much faster pace. Old ways of doing things do not work any longer. The younger generation of people that are being hired, they want instant results, they want instant feedback, they want to be immediately engaged. And what you need to understand is how you interact with those candidates. That's the first reflection of your brand. If you treat them poorly, it's a reflection of your brand. And they will not want to work there. They'll drop out of the process. Okay? So in order to be able to do all these things, what can your recruitment do to make things faster, but at the same time be more effective? All right? So what we've developed is obviously this insta-hiring methodology and approach that really is important in today's war for talent. When you think about the economies, the great economies of the world, like India, the US, those in Europe, China, things are moving at such a fast pace. Insta-hiring was developed really as a result of listening to our customers that we've established over the past number of years, what their challenges are, and then developing a product that actually solves those problems, okay? So in order to do that, we've put together a readiness index, Insta-hiring readiness index, a score that's going to really help you along your journey, okay? So the first thing is, what is the score? How do we calculate the score? And this is something that you can really think about in terms of your own organization. First thing is, you have to dive into the recruitment processes. What's happening? Where are the challenges? Who's dissatisfied? Is the candidate dissatisfied with the process? Is the hiring manager dissatisfied with the candidate quality that they're getting? Is the business dissatisfied with the performance indicators or with attrition, turnover of the organization? Okay? Dive into all those processes and how they're impacting things. Okay? The next thing is, you need to have something that can be done remote, automated, and then can be able to reuse. As Sandra talked about very early this morning, you've got this data which does you no good unless you utilize it. Analyze it and utilize it. You know, you interview 50 candidates for 10 jobs. You're only hiring 10, but there were 10 other candidates. Well, 6 months from now, you might have 10 more jobs that these 10 people or 20 other people that you already have in your system. Let's reuse some of that information as well. Okay? And then create an overall weighted score based on the impact that you're having. So here's what it looks like. So the Insta-hiring score really provides you kind of an average across those three different elements: remote, automate, and reuse. Okay? The speed of hiring is going to really determine where you are in terms of your ability to do things quickly. In this particular example, you know, you've got moderate velocity hiring process, what you're doing today. Think about it from your own organization perspective. Where are we? Are we at an early stage? Are we moderate? Or are we really at high velocity? Are we winning that war for talent against our competition and what the market demands in the industry that I'm working in? Okay? The other thing is efficiency, as we're talking about. You need to focus on collecting as much information as possible, but then actually using that information, analyzing it and putting it to use. Data is of no use. You hear a lot about artificial intelligence. It's really the utilization of data. Well, if you don't use it, it doesn't do anyone any good, right? You need to be able to use it, okay? And then really just breaking down the process. Where are the bottlenecks? Is it during the application stage, the initial screening stage, the interview process, during the offer, onboarding stage? Look at everything. But you can only help yourself if you're honest about it. A lot of times human nature doesn't want to admit that we have problems or there are things that we could be doing better, particularly when we're under scrutiny. But you have to be honest with where you are in order to be able to improve. All right? So let's talk about a couple of quick customer success stories. Some of these you heard about already today. We want to kind of put a little bit more of a spin on it as well. ZS, our wonderful colleagues from ZS are here. They've been a partner of us for a long time. As you heard about earlier, we're now expanding. But we really impacted some of the challenges they had. Large number of applicants. They had centralized recruiting for all offices and no standardization. Okay? The solution was we automated their digital assessments and interviews, provided relevant assessment tests to find the right candidates, the right fit, and then remote proctoring of the video assessments. The proctoring element is really critical because you want to be able to validate a candidate's identity and make sure they're not cheating. Okay? By proctoring them remotely, we're able to do that. As a result, really streamlined. Panel save time was over 9,000 hours. 4-month-long graduate hiring drives were reduced to 55 days. That's a dramatic improvement. You talk about insta-hiring and taking it from early stage down to that fast pace. There you have it. Okay? Next one, HCL, Global Technology Solutions Company, everybody's familiar with. Same thing, screening large number of applicants. Telephonic screening was inefficient. How many people in here still use the standard telephone screening interview with junior recruiters as a primary mechanism? Don't be shy. A lot of people are raising their hands like this. Yeah, there's about half the room. Okay? Asynchronous interviews was kind of the solution. And once again, panel save times. Reduction of getting the candidates engaged dramatically improved for them as well. All right? So let's take it one step further. Let's bring up one of our customers who will do the final panel of the day and learn a little bit about some of their elements and some of the things that they're working about. So Saurabh Kapoor, he's been with Bajaj Allianz as the head of talent for quite some time. He's got nearly 20 years of experience in the industry. He's worked across a broad range of sectors in manufacturing, technology, etc. And he's one of those individuals that really is always looking for innovative, better, more efficient and effective ways to make his recruitment and talent acquisition process better. So let's give him a warm welcome and welcome him up to the stage. So we wanted to chat with him a little bit about a few different things. First and foremost, talk to us a little bit about your current process today, some of the things that you're focused on, what some of the challenges are that you've been facing, and then we'll talk about how Talview has kind of helped augment some of that.
Sure. So I'll start with 2017, August is when I joined. And insurance is one of the few sectors which has double-digit growth. So are we as a company. So we have a lot of numbers to recruit. And one of the challenges which I came across was that our hiring numbers were supposed to at least double up, grow by 50% year on year. And we as a company were looking at growing in tier 3 and tier 4 cities, not metro, not state capitals as well. So hence we had a lot of challenge in terms of how do we reach out to these candidates, how do we recruit them, right? And the second biggest challenge is I don't have so many hiring managers to travel overnight to these locations. And how do we create those pools of resources which are pre-screened, right? And hence that's where we worked with Talview. We evaluated them in 2017, and that's when we signed up. And we built the platform which is to recruit through video assessments. That's what we use for screening the candidate on the behavioral parameters and get a pre-assessed candidate so that the hiring process is a bit faster.
And how did that impact the organization? You think about, you're somebody that loves to utilize technology and look for innovative and better ways to do things, recognizing that things are changing so fast. And, we were talking earlier too about, you get a technology today and then 6 months from now it's almost outdated already. So how did that impact the organization? What were you looking for from a technology standpoint, and what were some of the specific, success items that you were able to bring forth as a result of Talview?
So any company which actually looks at adopting technology, it is not to negate the human element. The human element is always there. It is just to aid the process, to fast track things, and it actually gives you that scale of reaching out to multiple people at the same point in time, right? So here is a scenario wherein I need to recruit one person, and I end up speaking to about 20 odd people, right? As compared to a manager gets thrown with maybe 20 resumes, I only give them maybe 4 qualified resumes. That's the time saving which I have. And those 4 also clearly demonstrate that what are the behavioral parameters, what is it that he needs, right? And where is it that he feels that the right fitment is there, and the process is a little quicker, right? So that's where we are actually adopting technology, not to negate that human element is not really required, but actually from a perspective that how do we aid the whole process and fast track the whole thing.
Yeah, and how did both the management team, the business, as well as the recruitment organization, how did they respond to kind of some of these new innovative products to help make their life a little better?
Yeah, so again, any change, people have a lot of reservations towards change. First and foremost, the first thing which they ask is, will that really work? Is it really the most authentic solution available, right? So we worked on a lot of things internally in terms of telling people what is available, why is it that we need this kind of scale, and what are the best options which are available. We looked at various vendors. We involved recruiters also in terms of reaching out to various people and finding out what kind of technologies are available and what is the best solution which is there, which can actually solve our purpose as of today. Like you rightly said, it's ever changing, ever evolving. So we are also learning day by day. But yeah, that's one bit. Second is since we are using TBI as a product from Talview, the tool is also learning with every interview, right? So we set as a process wherein we work closely with the hiring managers of telling them that how important it is for them to give us feedback so that the tool is able to learn who's select, who's reject, should be able to calibrate well. And then over a period of time, we have actually seen when we started this whole process, it was about 60% accurate. Now we are about 70-75% accuracy, and we still have that maybe aspiration to reach at least at 90+% accuracy.
That's great. That's good. And that's an important point that over time, as more data comes in, we're talking about utilizing data, right? Well, you've got to take advantage of the data, adjust and modify.
Just to add, that's where the recruiter really needs to value add. So I have personally seen within my team that people don't really question people when there is someone who's getting rejected. Why is it that the person is getting rejected? What is it that we actually need to look at in the candidate, right? Right from as basic as defining the job description and having that dialogue with the manager that this is what you need and this is what you can get. Because we all know that there are plenty of talent which is available, but there are only few who's maybe wanting to work with you, and hence we need to find that mid path that this is what we can get. Yeah. So that's very important as a recruiter to have that.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we sometimes forget about is we have junior recruiters asking difficult and behavioral type questions, and they're inconsistent with each candidate, so you don't have a consistent profile that you're bringing to the hiring managers. So it's very important to recognize that when you use automation, you have a consistent process. Every single candidate is assessed the same way, which gives the recruiters the tools.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as you're thinking about this journey, not just with Talview, but just in terms of your organization from a talent acquisition standpoint, what are some of the things that you think over the next 6 to 18 to 24 months that you would like to see or that would help as you've learned through this process that would make your organization even more effective on a talent acquisition?
So I think some of the things which we are again looking at now, next year our hiring numbers are already there and we are again growing by a lot of numbers. And the further challenges are that we are further penetrating to tier 4 cities, and hence we need to look at that scale, that what is it that we can do in order to first get that talent, right? Because my issue personally is that if I go on Naukri or any other portal, I don't get CVs in those locations. So there are no applicants, right? And hence we are looking at various other mechanisms of figuring out where the talent is, right? Facebook is one of the options which we are working on, right? In order to see that how do we get that talent first, and then use the tool to qualify them and see that what best we can do, in terms of hiring in those cities.
Yeah. So when you and I were talking earlier, we're talking about, as you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the insurance industry is one of those industries that's consistently growing here in Asia specifically. I think 13-14% on average, and Bajaj is at 20% last year, which is a significant amount of growth for a company your size, which always puts a lot of strain on things. And as you think about the gig economy and what's happening, how do you think that's going to impact, and maybe how has it already impacted your industry in Bajaj in particular?
So I think some of the things which we have worked upon from 2017 till now is we built in a lot of transparency in the whole recruiting process. So in our portal, the candidate gets to see real time what is his status, right? With whom his profile is pending. If he is getting assessed on various platforms, then where am I standing, right? So transparency is something which millennials really like. And the speed of execution is something which, another thing which they like. Lastly, that if you can somehow remove the biasness from the whole process, right? That's something which they really appreciate, right? So that's something which we are looking at, that's where you can actually leverage technology, removing biasness, giving them real-time feedback, telling them transparently where their candidatures are, because I've seen personally people get referred, but then they don't know that where is the CV pending. Will I ever get picked up? Am I in the database, or which stage I'm at, right? So that's something, the transparency will really help build your good pool of resources who will actually be wanting to work with you.
Yeah, exactly. So just a couple more questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience. But what are the 2 or 3 most critical metrics for you that you, like maybe every day when you get in the office, you open up your laptop, you look at, here's what I got to see. What are the 2 or 3 most important metrics that you monitor?
So within TA, the biggest and the most critical one is the cost per hire. That's something which we personally monitor. The second most critical is the time to fill, that how quickly I'm actually doing it. Last but not the least, there's one of the parameter which we always have, that how many pre-screened CVs which you already have. So we have verticalized structure within TA also. So how many pre-screened or pre-qualified resumes each of the recruiters are sitting with, because that kind of help business to work out their projections, that where do they need to recruit in the next quarter or next 6 months time. So that really helps, because that's how you actually know that what is the pool available to me, and where is it that I can hire my next set of people.
Yeah. So you've been in HR for a while. You've had a lot of different roles within HR, data analytics, talent acquisition, and so many other things. So you've seen a lot of changes in the last number of years. As you think about your organization and then the talent acquisition and recruitment space overall, where do you think the industry is going to be in the next 2 to 3 years? What do you think is going to be the most significant impact, or what do you see kind of if you look down the road?
And the biggest function which will get impacted positively is the TA function. Because you are the entry point to any organization, right? And the more transparently you transact with the candidate, the more scientific and data-backed hiring is what you do, the more likelihood of people choosing you is higher, right? And that's what I personally believe, that with technology there will be a lot of transparency which will come in. There will be a lot of data-backed decisions which you will end up taking. Right? Because we all know that there's a lot of biasness which happens. Some of it is consciously, some of it is unconscious bias. But yeah, I think with data using effectively, I think we can remove those biases. That's something which will really transform the whole process, especially within HR and within talent acquisition function, especially. And the platform we are even using for internal promotions and internal movements also. And that's something which is really helpful, because you get to see that, who are the ones internally available who are ready for the next level, right? Yeah. So that amount of detail, graphs you are ready with, that if I have certain plans of growing the organization, where is it that I can, I can literally visualize that these are the set of people who are available or who are ready, and these are the set of people who need to be further invested in, right? And what amount of investment you need to do in order to, be ready for future.
Yeah, that's great. Well, love to take a few questions from the audience. If you have any questions, raise your hand. Somebody will get you a mic. We'll take a couple of questions.
Yeah, hi, I'm Karthik. I'm from Experience Design. I have a question. First question is, if you have a plan to grow, probably another 1,000 in another 2-3 months, would this platform help you source CVs? Because recruiters, the first thing is sourcing CVs, and then there will be pre-screening, and that's where the platform will come in use, right? But if you have to grow for another 1,000, if you have to increase the team size, would this platform help you in sourcing CVs? And the other question is, would this platform or the AI, which we are talking about, help reduce the offer declines? This is where the recruiters are facing a lot of issues here. The first thing is sourcing, and the other one is a lot of offer declines. So would this help in any way?
Yeah, so let me start, and then I'll let you, from your perspective, talk about that. So first, in terms of immediate growth and expansion, the first challenge you have is, the first thing people think is, okay, I need to hire another 100 recruiters. So now you've got to hire more recruiters to take up that. Well, now you've got two challenges. You've got to hire two sets of people, those that you needed and those that support that. It doesn't make sense, and it's going to take too long. And functionally, it's not really going to be possible if you have an urgent need for hiring. Imagine a process where a job is posted and the candidates can, from their smartphone in a 24/7 environment, immediately get engaged into a process with an assessment, with a video interview that's pre-recorded, with a chatbot that's walking them through some things. 24/7 environment. They don't need to take time off. They don't need to go in, rather than simply doing it the old way, which is apply online and an applicant tracking system. And if you remember the session from early this morning with Karen Chang from San Francisco, she was talking quite a bit about this, where 94% of the people that apply through an ATS never hear from the company or get engaged or get asked for an interview. That's a reflection of your brand. So now they're on their smartphone, they've got a job, they're interested in it, they're immediately engaged into a process, and you're immediately able to feed those candidates to the recruiters who can automate, they can share, and be able to do that. So that answers that question in terms of how that particular helps. Well, how about from your perspective? What have you experienced in terms of utilizing, because you guys have made a lot of hires?
Yeah. So in fact, what will give you scale is not the traditional method of hiring, wherein you end up going to a vendor, you launch a referral scheme, you end up doing numerous posts on LinkedIn and otherwise. I think what gives you scale is if you start social recruiting, in your company. That's something which we personally invested in. So any job which get posted, get blasted on the social media by my employees. So they have an option of sharing it on any social media, right? And the application is able to track them down to the actual source of hire. That's one bit, right? Second is, like I said, we've been using Facebook a lot, right? And next year would be again a transformation wherein we want to take it to the next level of Facebook sourcing, and how do we get more and more CVs through Facebook, right? Now once we are ready with the sourcing engine, the fundamental issue is how do we get pre-qualified CVs, right? Because your hiring numbers are 1,000, you will end up reaching out to say 10,000 or 1 lakh people, right? But that 10,000 also, nobody is interested to speak to those 10,000 people. They still want pre-qualified CVs, right? Now the other way to look at it is, I may end up hiring 100 people within my team, but is that the right solution? That's something which the organization need to think of. But the way I think is that, where is it that I can leverage technology in order to cut down those mundane, normal processes, right? Wherein I can get pre-qualified, pre-screened CVs, right? Who match my behavioral parameters, and only those filtered resume is something which I give it to my hiring manager to do the interview process. That kind of saves me a lot of time, right? The next question is, you asked me about dropout ratio, right? Now that's something which again recruiter needs to invest time in terms of analyzing these reports. So when you get a report, a behavioral assessment, right? Now where we are putting in data back to the system is again, who all have accepted the offer and have joined, right? If I put 1,000 candidates, how many have actually, cleared my screening process, cleared my first interview, cleared my HR interview, right? At what price point? Because these data points will actually give you that, analytics wherein you can actually use and predict, right? It's a process. First you have to gather data, then you have to analyze data, then you reach that stage of predicting that this person will come in, this person will not come in. Another thing which we have personally built in our portal is, it has an inbuilt AI wherein it tracks the candidate activity, right? How often the candidate is visiting my site, which section it's visiting, right? What is he looking at? How quickly he's filled in the form, right? How accurately, he's actually giving us all the information, right? And that kind of gives me a score that what's the likelihood of that candidate joining me? And that's the other way of looking at it. But like I said, you need to look at your data set, analyze it effectively, and then use it for prediction. It may not happen on day one. It will take a lot of time, at least 6 months to reach you that stage that wherein you have a lot of data to even start analysis. And that's when, then you are ready to predict things.
Yeah, that's great. Good stuff. Yeah. Good question. Thank you. Anyone else have another question?
Basically, I used to work for a major bank in India, which typically hires a lot of frontline sales officer, which I believe insurance is also getting hired. So how do you tackle the problem of frontline sales officer getting hired through AI? This is first. Do you think the cost, because these are typically a low-cost resource, so the cost that we will be spending on the infrastructure, do you think it is justified to spend on this kind of hiring?
Now, cost bit, I'll leave it aside because you have to really experience the platform, know the cost, and then you can calculate. But from a candidate perspective, it really works well, right? Now, TBI as a platform is available, I don't know how many of you are aware, but it's available in English and Hindi both, right? That works for me. I need not tell my candidate that you have to only speak in English, right? That's where, you actually scare them away, especially the frontline sales folks, wherein they say, no, I can't give an interview in English, right? And my accuracy of the report is still there, even if they speak in, Hindi, English both, right? So that's something which actually gives me that confidence of telling people that, look, don't worry, it's a very simple assessment, just go ahead with it, we'll tell you with the report how it looks.
Okay, we'll take one more.
Yeah. Hi, Matt, Saurabh. The question is to both of you. Today, when we talk about job descriptions, there's a significant problem when it comes to your managers actually filling the right job descriptions, because when you're playing the volume game where you're hiring almost 500 to 1,000 people in a quarter, getting different job descriptions for the same skill sometimes causes a lot of confusion. And today we have seen that a proper job description predicts whether the candidate will actually apply for the job or not. Now, some of the companies which I've read over the internet are basically going one step further and making it more innovative with the job requester itself, posting a video about the requirement, right, where he's getting involved and there's a visual content about the request, right? Is Bajaj and is there other companies which you have come across who are doing something very different in terms of the requirement gathering and the job description?
So I'll start with that. I think there's a secondary problem that's equally important, and that's there's a significant misalignment between recruitment and the business. Recruiters often do not even know who it is that they should be looking for, because they haven't aligned with the business, with the hiring manager, they haven't made that connection. So it gets back to what I was saying earlier in terms of making an honest assessment of where you are as an organization. So there has to be a regular meeting, because what you don't want to have happen, which happens all the time, a recruiter hands 3 finalist candidates to the hiring manager for an interview, and they say to the hiring manager, I really like these candidates. And the hiring manager says, I don't care if you like these candidates. I want to know if they can do the job. Well, you haven't even aligned with them to tell them what it is that you're looking for. And are you even hiring for the right job? The secondary challenge with some of that, which I think a lot of organizations now are recognizing, are the soft skill elements of a job. One of our customers, Cognizant, had a big challenge in terms of they were hiring a lot of software engineers, but the skill sets are changing so quickly, they needed to recognize that, we can't just hire them for the skill today. We need to know if they can do this job 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now. Now we need to understand, do they have learning ability? Can they work in a team? How quickly can they adapt? Those types of things. So how do you put that in a job description, right? So you need to really have those behavioral questions about some of those required skill sets. Hard skills are easy to kind of interview for, assess for. If it's a specific software development engineer and they have specific skill set criteria, you know what it is. But what about those other things? Do they fit into our culture? Can they work for that hiring manager based on their personality? So those are some of the things that kind of help you in terms of shaping the job description and then making sure that the hiring manager tells a recruiter, here's what I'm really looking for, here's what we need in this role.
Yeah, I think you've covered most of it. I think it starts with the recruiter's role is to challenge hiring manager in terms of defining the job description very clearly. I think most of the hiring managers end up defining the job description, with that preconceived thing that this is what I need in the candidate, right? And when they end up meeting them or maybe hiring them, most of them, they feel that, no, he's not the right fit. Maybe I think we made a mistake, right? And that's where, when we started personally, before investing in a tool or in an ATS, we actually look at redefining all the job description, right? And we actually looked at that, find uniquely how many roles we have, right? And the job description is clearly there for them, right? Now the job description is broken down into two parameters: behavioral, functional. Functional is something which is your problem, you identify. Behavioral is something which we will give you in terms of the pre-screen CV and the TBI report which I spoke about. Right? That's the right way of doing it or looking at it. Because behavioral element is something which you can judge, and that requires a completely unbiased opinion, in my view. Right? Because otherwise people always go by those right fits in their mind, and they feel that yes, he's answering it correctly, he's the right fit, whether maybe the machine says something else. Right? So I think that clearly demarcating what are the behavioral elements, what are the functional elements, if you do that amount of work, then I don't think so there'll be a challenge over a period of time.
He's mentioned a couple of times now TBI. Some of you might not know what TBI is. It's Talview's behavioral insight automated system that allows us to build a behavioral profile of a candidate, essentially automating the process that typically requires a professionally trained interviewer sitting across from somebody to be able to ascertain the type of speech, the words that they're using, their mannerisms, those types of elements. And then we're able to match those to specific competencies required for success on the job. And we've automated that system, and that's what he was referring to in terms of what the tool is able to do. And a lot of the Talview folks around here can chat with you more about that if you have some more questions. Do we have time for one? Are we done? Good. Well,
In the interest of time, we'll have to continue.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Yes,
we appreciate it. Appreciate your partnership.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah.
Thank you, members of the audience, for all the questions. Thank you, Mr. Matt and Mr. Kapoor, for answering all of them.